You got to eat your microphone, Mandy, so you might have to lift it up.
I feel like a movie star.
Just move it up a little bit. You are a movie star.
You look like a movie star today. All your bangles on.
You're a movie star in your own world, aren't you?
I am, yes.
So do you want to introduce yourself and what you do, and your association with the charity would be nice, and life and various other bits of it?
Okay, I'm Mandy. I am an addictions worker, and I work...
What does an addictions worker is? Because that's the title of a company's giving you that title rather than...
Okay, so I'm Mandy.
I'm Mandy.
Mandy, I work in a treatment centre for drug and alcohol, and I'm an addictions worker, and I have... I'm a support worker as well, senior support worker. I do love that title, I've got to be honest, because I think whether you're addictions worker, counsellor, support worker, or you're just Mandy, it's just about being you and being able to help and support and guide other people through.
So what about the senior bit?
The senior bit is because I feel mature. And I like that, and I've always loved that title. I remember when I got the promotion as a senior support worker, and I was so overwhelmed and so full of gratitude that actually Mandy Ellis was a senior support worker at treatment centre. And I feel quite emotional when I say that, because that is massive for me, and it's something that I'm very dear to, and I still don't want to let it go, if I'll be honest.
But the definition of addictions work is really you're a counsellor, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you see, but I know it's called an addiction worker because it's got a broad spectrum. It's got that, that you don't just do counselling, you do everything around that support of the client, and from the start to the finish of the journey, really.
Yeah, and I think it's the same within the charity. I mean, I'm a trustee of the charity, I can say now. Mm-hmm. So a year ago, you was asking me to be a trustee, and I was training, and I'm also one of the fundraisers for the charity. We do a lot of the coffee and chats for the charity and get out in the community with the charity. And there's lots of new things has happened in a year. The charity's grown in such a year, but in so many different areas. And I think I'm very community, which is also a bit around my work as well. Even though I'm the counsellor, the addictions worker, the support worker, it's about being a part of a team. That's it, around the community within the charity. I'm part of a team. That's what's important to me.
Your bangles might be really noisy.
I'm so anxious.
Why?
I don't know.
It's crazy. You've done it before.
I've done it before. It was a year ago.
Yeah.
Over a year ago.
And you know us probably better than anybody else in that sense.
I know, but in front of a microphone and in front of a camera, stuff is...
Don't worry, we're not going to be able to hear you because you're not eating your microphone like you're supposed to. Pull it forward, woman. Come on. So I know, like, there's that kind of bit about the charity and the bit about your work and the community stuff. There is other stuff that you do as well, isn't there?
There is. So I'm very much... So my year ahead is that I'm looking at the wellbeing side of things now. I'm looking at what I can do to make a difference and bring a uniqueness to my work. So I've started drumming. I can't pronounce it, so you're going to have to help me here, Mike. I can spell it, but I can't.
Okay.
And it's DJEMBE, and that's the name of the drum.
Okay.
But I can't.
Give it a go.
DEMG is not that at all.
Right.
I'm sorry, guys. Everybody that's listening, it's really not that. And I've gone down that route.
I love your dyslexia.
I've gone down that route because actually it's also a sense for me that I'm able to express myself. I'm able to learn. People can express themselves through music, through a beat, through a drum. It's so powerful. I feel that passion. I feel that fire in me, because
you can hear it in you.
Until you've experienced it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some, class A drummer, and I don't intend to be. And it's not about that for me. It's about being able to express yourself in other ways, because I was very unable to express myself for 40 years of my life. And by coming into treatment and being able to find that path, I wanted to be able to do something different. And it's just, honest to God, the simplest beat is just amazing. And I love it. I love the fact that I always wanted to learn a musical instrument. I remember having a guitar when I was a kid, and I hurt my fingers, you get the hard bits, and I gave up. And that was quite a bit of a story about my life. I always gave up. I never saw things through. And actually to be able to do that, not out your fingers, but you do out these parts of your hands. It's so simple. And I zone out. And it was really funny. A couple of weeks ago, I went and had a lesson, and they thought I was asleep.
They thought you were asleep.
The woman who teaches me and another guy was like, Angie, you're proper in the zone. And it was like my hands was doing the movement. But I do a lot of meditation too. And I think that was the bit I can meditate to that. And I think it was just that I was just away with it. And it didn't matter who was in the room. Nobody was watching. And actually, if they was watching, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think that is, so I've really found that. I'm also, so I started to have Reiki. I can pronounce that. You'll be pleased to know. I started to have Reiki, and there was something quite special about it. And I very much have been held the last 11 years, and it was around how that feels inside internally. And it was around when they go for the pressure points, or not pressure points, don't go for pressure points, the chakras, I can pronounce that too. And it was just something quite spectacular, and I wanted to learn. And I think that's the other bit. I think for me, being in recovery myself, I think for me, it's always been around education. And it's around, I'm not going to put myself down here at all, because I recognise I do that, and I'm working on that this month. But it's around the educational part about book, pen, paper, laptops. It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me. I know I have to do that. And I listen to my books on audio now, and that's because that was introduced from yourself. And that there is just magical, because you can take it in. But I think for me, it's when you're hands-on, that's when there's something spectacular in that. And I think that's the bit that I'm learning, and I like it, because I would like to think that one day I can bring Reiki into Wellbeing, bringing the drumming into the charity. And we have a drumming circle, which is going to be happening on the 23rd of March. And then they're going to be monthly. And it's about having some fun. It's not about, I'm not producing a drumming circle in any shape or form. What I'm producing is a free space, a safe place to come and express yourself. And yeah, and I'm going to also be doing some dance as well, not as in... Just so
You're not going to become a ballerina,
I'm not going
to
become a ballerina. This is just about expressing yourself through movement. So...
Sounds so exciting.
I know. And there was loads of stuff there that I thought I could ask you about, which is, one, the links to your dyslexia that you've had to work through for a long time, and linking that into the kind of the practical side. And I'm just wondering how that's felt throughout your life, having dyslexia, and the impact that that's had on you.
I can now actually see where I've been stomped. Is that the word? Stomped? Oh God, you know what I mean. Where my growth as all through schooling up until, and I done quite well at school. I still came out with like 5 or 6 GCSEs, and I got a grade. I didn't get a top grade, but I got a grade. But when I look at that now, around how difficult that was, and actually how life become such a challenge back then. And I can still feel that. I've just signed up for a new course, and I had the conversation with a lady only on Monday evening, and the insecurity that I felt, it was really, I just felt like I was being swallowed up. And the lady was really kind and she was really gentle, but to have to explain that a full stop, I know a full stop's got to be there. I'm not silly. I know a full stop comes at the end of a sentence. I know Angie begins with a capital A. But when I write it, I have to really, and I still don't see it as right. That's the thing.
I shouldn't laugh, but we did laugh about it. Can you remember that time when you...
I know what she's going to say.
So we were doing some work together, weren't we? And one of the things that came up was Mandy was doing this piece of work, and we were working through it together. And it didn't have a single full stop, did it? Or a capital letter or anything. And we were reading it to each other, and it was like, it went on. We did laugh about it, didn't we?
We did.
But I suppose that's the difference between being able to laugh, not laugh about it, but accept that's okay. It's we've all got difficulties, and
I think I've only accepted that the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think it's only been the last couple of years, because that I don't go into my victim mentality about it anymore. I don't judge myself anymore.
Yeah.
I don't I've started to be able to laugh at myself now. And that's only through the help of you guys as well, to accept that, for me to accept that it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm 51 now.
Woohoo.
I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm 51 now. And I think for 40, maybe 5 years of my life, I've always put myself down with that, because I always felt I wasn't good enough. I always felt inadequate. I always felt people were mocking me or taking the mick out of me. So I wouldn't speak. I wouldn't share it. I still struggle a little bit around sometimes saying things that I have to ask quite a lot. I hope this don't come out wrong. And I know that it does annoy people, but it's because I'm only just educating myself on what is political correct and what isn't as well.
But is there also, it becomes a habit to ask rather than you having to ask? It's almost, when does that confidence side of you come through and go, I'm just going to say it without having to almost excuse yourself? Because in a sense, that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're excusing, but that's you. And we all love you for who you are. We enjoy the pleasure that you give us when you call somebody an absolute wrong word, but we can laugh about it. You're not offensive. And even if you were offensive and it would offend somebody, well, shame on them for being offended in that sense.
And I think what's happened is in the last 10, 11 years, I think being accepted for me as who I am, who I am, basically is helped me to not apologise as much.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it does still come out. And I guess it also depends on what setting I'm in. And, that professional Mandy.
Yeah.
And I like to think I'm professional 90% of the time, but it's also that even in my profession, even in my job, I'm accepted for who I am. Even when I'm at home, I'm accepted for who I am. And I think that's the bit around, that's the uniqueness of the individual, I guess, isn't it?
But does that acceptance come from within before it comes? I suppose what I'm trying to do is look at those relationships that you have, particularly if you have mental health problems, if you've got dyslexia and other challenges. Does the acceptance have to come from within, or does it come from outside and then comes in? I'm really sorry. That's a deep question.
No, it is a deep question, and I'm gonna go with that. For me, it come from external first.
Yeah.
Come from external first. So then, because then I've got to believe you. Remember,
yeah.
Because trust is a big thing for me, and actually, when someone's telling me it's okay, I'm still thinking, oh, are you really being honest with me? So I've had to build those relationships and be able to trust. And I think I've had so much consistency in my life in the last 10, 11 years whilst I've been in Somerset as well, I think that's also been able to help me grow into the person that I am. So it come external first. I've got to be honest. It come external first, and then I started to believe, trust, accept, and all of that stuff that comes with it. So I think that's what my process was. And some days is still, I have to really dig deep.
Because it's been part of your journey and for 51 years, do you think that people are more, like you said, you spoke to this lady on Monday about this new course that you're going to be doing. Was she empathic about it? Do you know what I'm saying? Are people becoming more educated about the challenges that people have? Or do you still feel that there's a level of lack of understanding? That's controversial, I'm sorry.
No, I believe... So my experience on...
Sorry, she ain't going to listen to this podcast.
Right, okay. So my experience on Monday is basically she was very kind, she was very polite and all of that. Did she have as much understanding? When I asked if I could have some initial support, it was like, that was the bit I felt really sad about, because when I was doing my level 4, when I was doing all other qualifications, I've had that even through the level 2s, I've had that. And it was like, yeah, but now you've got that, you don't need that. And it was like, but actually, the only reason I've got that is because I had the support.
Yep.
And so I asked for a paper copy. I know, because actually I can when I visually do things, I can do it better. So I know that I will give better by writing it down and then sending it off in the post, like the old postman. I've got to keep him in a job because actually he does an amazing job, if I'll be honest with you. And it's around that I need to be able, for me, that's what works for me. But to explain that to a lady who's so technical and everything's online now and, all of that. So, okay, I'll do it online. I'm more than happy to do it online, but can I have some initial support? But you don't need the initial support.
But that is not getting into your frame of reference, is it, in any way, shape,
So
or
then
form?
I want to sabotage that and say, do you know what? I'll tell you what, I'll go and look for another course.
Yeah.
Actually, I really want to do this course. So I have to nurture myself through that conversation. And I've signed up for the course and I'm going to get a paper copy, you'll be pleased to know. And I'm going to do it online. So I've met them halfway and said, okay, if I can visually do it on paper first, I know I'm double handling. But at the end of the day, it's my free time. And the other way I look at it is educating me.
Yeah.
And who knows, I might get it on the online course and I may not even use the paper copy.
Well, the thing is, everybody learns differently, don't they?
Yeah.
And everyone operates differently. Someone that I work with who is younger than me, who is really anti-electronic. He's still got a paper diary that he carries around. He puts all his jobs in a paper diary. And it's almost a bit odd that he's younger than me, grew up, in a IT technical society, yet he prefers to use that. And, I work in the IT industry and I prefer sometimes, only sometimes, to take paper notes. Now, if I go to a meeting with a client or something, quite often I'd rather write on paper than do it on my laptop or on my phone, because actually it's about concentration. And if you've got all these notifications popping up on your phone or on your laptop, I know you can turn them off, but it's distracting. Whereas if you just got a bit of paper and you're writing the notes down, I much prefer that.
Yeah, I miss my Filofax.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but for lots of reasons. Partly because I do like writing. I still write notes. If you go over there in the kitchen, there is a pile of odds and sods, like one from the solicitor, one from this person, and then I can refer back to it. When I put them on my phone, which I do if I go to a public meeting, and I think people think I'm on my phone, where in actual fact I'm not. I'm writing notes.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Is it's that perception. It's a bit like going to restaurants, and I absolutely detest when you go to a restaurant and they go, "Oh, you got to scan that QR code for the menu."
Oh gosh!
And you're like, right, that's it. Everybody gets their phones out, and then of course they look at the menu, and everyone takes a bit longer to look at the menu than perhaps you do. So then you go on your phone and start scrolling on Instagram or whatever. And it kind of sets the whole evening off in the wrong way, I think.
I agree.
And I know why we've got QR menus. It's a thing from COVID, but please, can we go back to paper menus? I think it's so much better.
And I agree with you. And I think the other thing for me is what I do know, and I love this bit about that, it's not my resistance to change anymore.
No.
It's not about I don't want to get involved with the technology, because this isn't about that.
No.
I can adjust to that and I can learn and I can be educated around what you need to do. I've done that with a QR code the other day and I didn't know what I was doing. And my daughter basically was laughing her head off and said, "You just have not got a clue, have you?" I said, "I really haven't." And but it's not the resistance to learn that anymore. And I think that's the bit.
It's a preference rather than a resistance.
And it's because I know it works for me. And to be honest with myself and know that works for me, I'm all right with that.
Well, I think that's perfectly okay. And I think, as a society, I think I personally think we've got more tolerant to what people's preferences are. I think there's just the odd industry, the odd organisation, the odd person that is a bit rigid and isn't willing to be supportive. And that, by the sounds of it, is potentially what you had on Monday. It sounds like it's worked out now, but yeah, it's...
Because I also have to keep myself in check, because one of the other things is where, I'm aware that I can be quite rigid. I can see Angie in the corner of my eye, but I can be, and it's around as long as I can work with that. And I think that's the other bit. I know if I'm being rigid and I'm just being stubborn and I'm not doing anything about it and I'm being lazy as well. I can't believe I'm saying that on air as well, and I'm being lazy. But this wasn't about that. This was completely, not for once, because I do it a lot now, but my needs were met because I asserted myself.
Yeah.
And I was able to share what I need, and actually in the most respectfulest manner. That was it.
But I suppose that what I get frustrated about, I don't know about you, but it's the barriers to all of that. So You know, if I go to a restaurant and I want a paper menu, I'll ask for one.
Mhm.
And if they don't have one, well, I'm not going to order any food. So this is the option. I would like a paper menu, please. So, and actually, I want a paper copy of that course, or it's how you manage that resistance, and thinking about some people are not as confident as I am. You know, they do not have the capacity to be able to say, actually, and I think sometimes that's that bit about recognizing we all have choices, and those choices, we should be able to elect those choices within reason. You know, if I want a paper menu, great, let me have a paper menu.
Sure.
It's not hard, is it? So the other thing was your drumming that came up for me there. And because I like the concept of drumming, and I like everything and I completely understand what you're saying. But for me, I can't tolerate the noise. I find it too much to manage the noise. William plays in a club and I wear earplugs. I've got a pair of earplugs to go to a blooming concert that's in a church with 4 violins. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm just really sensitive to noise. So if somebody was really, really sensitive to noise, do you think they'd be able to get through that if they're depending on their circumstances?
Yes. And I think, again, you can use the earplugs. And I know, we've brought it into a group therapy session and somebody has actually done that and they loved it because it was at their level. But again, it's not about going in and smashing the drums as in such. Normally the free child comes out and you want to, do you know what I mean? Just make it as loud as possible. But then I think that misses the concept as well. I think it's also around the way I've been starting with the drums is actually to feel the drum first. And just by moving your hand 3 times to the left and 2 to the right, basically, and feeling the skin of the drum is absolutely really so powerful, and it's no noise at all. And I think that's the bit around, whatever you can handle, because I'm quite sensitive to noise. And it's mine is, if there's 10 people in the room and they're all chatting at one time, I can't think of anything worse because I can't work out what everybody's doing. And I know where that comes from. And it's just being able to be on that alert, where when you're in the drum, it's completely different. But I think the other thing is you'll be surprised how quickly people pick up what their level is for them. And I think that's one of the things I've learned when I do the drumming circle on a Thursday evening, is there's some people that's really good. They're brilliant. It fascinates me because what I do is I zone out and then I'm picking what they're doing. And actually, I'm really quiet with mine because what I also learn is I learn through counting, which is really strange. Other people learn through, come out with these really weird things that they come out with drumming. It's really strange.
Give some examples.
Okay. So it's like they would come out with some chant, or they would come out with like, baked beans are lovely, because they're doing it with them. They're doing it that way, but that goes over my head. It's too complicated. But actually, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and all of that. And what I've noticed is my dominant aunt, the dominant aunt struggles to come in as well, because also that concentration, but also in regards to there's too much going on at once. How they can do 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So whoa, and I will learn, and I will be able to do that. But I guess that's the other bit for me. I have to, and I think that's also something to do with the dyslexia as well. I think it's that too many things at once.
Or is that a level of, actually, this is all I can manage at this moment in time, and that's okay too? That acceptance bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the other bit. And I don't go and judge myself to the people that's really good.
Oh, you're not comparing yourself?
I'm not comparing myself to others. Yeah. I've spent a lot of my years comparing myself, and it didn't lead me on the right path.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things I've also learned is, and I believe I do practice it, is that if I compare, I'm despairing myself. And I can't do that. And that might be a cliche to some, but actually that, compared to despair, has got me through 11 years of recovery.
Yeah.
And it's a massive toll. And I felt that it was one of those that in early recovery, I remembered comparing myself to so many different people, and I could have sabotaged myself because it's so powerful.
just for those who have never met you before, what kind of recovery are you talking about?
So I'm in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, and I am coming up to 11 years consistent recovery. And I came into treatment in 2013 and invested. Actually, people invested in me, and then I invested in myself, and I found a new way of life. And that's not a cliche, because I didn't know. And I'm going to say this: I do personal development, and actually, there was a tool, a piece of work that I only done less than 3 weeks ago, and it was as powerful as it was the first time I ever come in and invested in myself, to be able to see the things I never learned through life, and actually the things that I've had to learn, whether that be in boundaries, whether that be in trust, whether that be in unconditional love. All of that stuff is all come in the last 11 years. And, there's a sadness around that, but also it was such a revelation. That's what I'm looking for. It's such a revelation around wow. I lost my way at such a young age, and I found myself, and I'm still finding myself. I think that's the beautiful thing about recovery. But even 3 weeks ago was something that was just massive, to the extent and I know that you know this, is on my kitchen side. I look at it every day. It's actually, that's the tool that I need right now. I think I think that's the beautiful thing about recovery.
But coming back to that, isn't it? That's that being open-minded about everything and just embracing education. And I'm not talking about the formalization of education. I'm not talking about sitting in a classroom or reading online and doing an online course, but it's that whole business, isn't it, of educating yourself through whatever means that is. And I can relate to that at this moment in time. I mean, honestly, if anybody else dies around me or anything else dies around me, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I've had to take the positive out of that and think, well, this is certainly educating me about grief and loss and stuff like that. It doesn't make it easy. It's a bit like, the paper copy but it's about being willing to do that. It's willing to think, what's the education out of this? Do I give up because it's hard? It's like recovery is hard. It's really hard to be in recovery. It's hard to go out socially and not drink, and it is quite trendy to use drugs nowadays and things like that. But damn well you can't do that. And
I think it's recognising the whole of it. So for me, the addiction started before the drinking, the drugs. And in regards to, I hate the word, I know I'm going to use it, that fixing the feelings and wanting to change the way I feel. But actually, when I look back, food was a big thing for me, and actually food is still a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And, I have to keep myself in check with that. But that's hard. That's hard, because actually people do want to go out and socialise and all of that, and knowing my limits, but also knowing that I can find loopholes in everything. I can find a loophole in everything. And I think the important thing for me is, as long as I'm being honest with myself, but what I also have to remember is I have to be honest with other people, because sometimes I still go to that fear of that I could throw everything away.
Yeah.
That I could do that. And actually, I don't want to do that. And I think as long as, I journal every day. I'm not going to tell you I sit and write down in my book every day, because I don't. I can journal by being laid in my bed or being sat on my sofa and doing that process through my head. And I think as long as I can look at that in myself every day, then I'm doing something right. I'm doing something right. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, I don't need to go off to a meeting. I don't need to do that, because I think I've got that awareness around myself. Don't get me wrong, I do go off to meetings and I do what I need to be doing for me on my recovery. But I think for me, it's also been around having a purpose in life. Have I not had a purpose in life? Of course I have. I'm a mum. I'm a mum as well. I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, and all of that stuff. But I feel that my purpose in life has always been for helping other people. And I think now I can help people at my level in regards to not want nothing back in return, because addictions, that's normally what it's for. And it's around being able to give back in a society and give back what was freely given to me, I guess, in all areas, whether that be in education as well.
Yeah.
I'm open this drumming circle, whether it's a 5-year-old or whether it's, I can tell you there's a 72-year-old coming to our drumming circle. And even that, when I say drumming circle, I feel that, you know, is it a drumming circle? It's not going to be that, it's just going to be that place of fun. But it's also, this 72-year-old really, look, I got a text off her yesterday saying, do I need to wear gloves? Don't need to wear gloves, by the way. But just the innocence of that. Do you know what I mean? And actually, she's really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really amazing.
But it's very inclusive of the community. When you do things like that, anybody can join a group like that. Like you said, you don't have to be a 30-year-old, 50-year-old, whatever. It can be boy, girl, child, adult. You know, it's a safe place, isn't it, to be able to just express yourself in a different way.
And it's the same as our coffee and chats. I mean, I love the Burnham-on-Sea coffee and chat. We are doing another coffee and chats, which will be exactly the same. You know, we're getting them off the ground. But the Burnham coffee and chat now is people come in and they know your names, even if they've only seen you once.
Yeah.
And it's around how much we bring to the community, but also how much the community brings to us. Because I think that's the other bit. It's around, you know, when you walk in there and somebody comes in and they've not got nothing, they come in and they'll bring you in a little raffle prize to put on your table, or they'll offer to come in, help you on the counter and sell you coffees and all of that. I mean, everything's on donation anyway. I'm not selling that, by the way, the coffee and chat. What I'm trying to do there is show that it doesn't matter what ability or what you've got or anything else. We have
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah. This lady comes in and she might just be able to stand at the counter and serve free coffees. But I'll tell you what, that smile is priceless.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other bit. And I think what I've learned is throughout my whole life, I've been very external. Everything has been a bit external. And I think what I'm learning.
What does that mean, Mandy?
External is like, you know, I want the best tracksuit, or I want the best pair of trainers, or I want a nice car and I want a nice home and all of that. And I think what I'm learning is that internal, that peace of mind, that seeing somebody smile. I remember when I first moved to Burnham-on-Sea, and from coming up from Devon, and I remember getting on a bus and feeling really anxious, and I remember the bus driver said good morning to me, and it just blew me away. And it was like, oh my God, they say good morning. Do you know what I mean? But that's, people do say good morning, but it really blew me away. And I go to work every day and I walk along my road where I drop my car, and I walk along the road, and it's, I don't know, maybe 80-year-old gentleman, and I say good morning to him every morning, and he wasn't there for a couple of days, and actually I felt that. I was like, oh, I hope he's all right. I don't know, I don't even know his name. But what he does is he goes to that bus stop, because actually his daughter, who's an elderly lady, drops him off a newspaper. She don't even get off the bus.
Oh.
She just drops him off his newspaper, and he puts it in his little bag, and then he just goes back home. But he's not been there for a couple of days. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, I was worried about you. And he went, dodgy tummy or whatever. And he went, didn't get me newspaper, but look. And he had a supply of his newspapers.
Oh, bless.
That there is just priceless.
But that's priceless for him as well as you. And I think, you know, I completely understand that, because it's not, because I say good morning to anybody and everybody. And my kids, and I've said this on the podcast before, my kids always go, they're going to think you're a nutter. And I go, do you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
I absolutely don't care. And it's just a lovely thing for you to do. But there's loads of people there that don't have that.
No, that's the internal, because it
that's
it does it
but
for
that's
me
right.
too.
It's that warming feeling, isn't
I
it?
remember when I got on this bus, and there was a lady there, and she was dressed in like hippie type of thing, and I love all that stuff. And I could feel her anxiety, but I could also feel my own, because I didn't do bus journeys very well, and actually I struggled with stuff like that. Being in a closed space with all these people was like, I don't think of anything worse. But obviously you want to get around, you've got to get on the bus. And I remember this young girl getting off, and I said, do you know, you look absolutely amazing. I love what you're wearing. I remember walking past when she got off the bus, and just see her like looking at me, like a little smile, and I was like, oh, just made that girl's day.
Yeah. I keep seeing a quote or a meme on Instagram at the moment, which is I've got to try and remember this, but it's something along the lines of there's someone out there thinking of you about time that you were kind to them.
Yeah.
And that's so true. It's so true. You know, just smiling at somebody as you walk down the road, or you know, that time you made someone a cup of tea that, you know, came to fix your boiler or whatever it is, you know, all of that stuff really makes a difference
Costs
to
nothing,
people.
does it?
It costs nothing time.
And I think that's the bit around the external and the internal. I know that I've grew up throughout life always wanting, taking, and actually, you know, not caring through addiction. When now it's completely the opposite. And I had it this weekend with my daughter. We had a really nice conversation, and like, you know, it's very much we're going to do this. And actually, do you know what? Let's just go and have a cup. And they look at you like,
yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? In this day and age now, there's always that pressure to do something, and sometimes it is just nice to just sit there and have a cup of tea or go for a drive in the car. You don't have to go bowling or go to the cinema or do
But
this or
we
do
touched
that.
on that this morning, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Before
did.
we were
Yeah.
when we were setting up, and it is that bit about doing what you want to do. But I know that sounds a bit selfish, but it's not that selfishness. It's that actually it's all right. Like I showed Mike some flower arrangements that I did, and it's like it's random. It's like, you know, and he's probably really not interested at his age about my flower arrangements, but turned around and said, "Oh, that's really pretty." And it's like, but that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I'm being selfish, but it's also I also want to give my hand of kindness to people, and I think that's the bit. It's just that moment, isn't it, in time where you make a choice as to how you're going to conduct yourself, whether it's going to be this way or that way, and.
I think, and I think that's the other bit. And I know I've touched on recovery quite a bit today, but I think it's that maturity now. Do you know what I mean? It's that maturity, but also that peace and contentment. Sorry. And it's like I was driving home this morning, and it was like, oh, that's you calling. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, because it's that season.
Yes,
it's that
spring's
season.
spring's in the air.
Spring is coming.
Yeah.
And actually, I love it. And it's that, you know, there's so many daffodils out at the moment. And I'm very much with the colours as well. You know, we've been green quite a lot this winter, I believe. We've been green quite a lot. And it's now everything's coming out early because it's been so wet, but it's beautiful. And I think that's what gives me warmth inside. The same as the smile, and the same as, you know, I don't need to have whatever external anymore, and I feel quite comfortable with that. But there's also people, you know, past people and all of that stuff that comes with it. It's quite alien to them to see me like that.
No, that's it.
So I guess that's the bit as well. It's all priceless, isn't it?
It is, and you know, something that I've got into the habit of doing is, so I do the horses and do the dogs, and then come home, and because my garden is full of, as you know, for spring bulbs, and the daffodils are everywhere. And because I love them, and in September I'm excited about putting bulbs in the garden. It's like I'm a bit like a kid, really, and I'm very fortunate that I can afford them. But I love going. I come now. A new thing that I've done, just because I think I needed to, was I go in the garden and I pick any of the daffodils that have fallen over and are not going to survive. If you see them, so I pick them and bring them in the house. And then I stand, like there's some over there, and I stand over there and I can smell them, and I think, oh, wow. And it's like it's almost paying me. It's just giving back to me, if you see what I'm saying. It with its scent, it's that kindness, and it just does feel nice when you get that. It's a lovely feeling. And then I love, like, I can pop a bunch over to the neighbours, or I can drop a bunch off at friends and stuff like that. And I just think it's those joys that actually it's no cost to me to do that.
It's really nice.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
So, Mandy, you've told we obviously you've had you on the podcast before, and you've told us what your goals were for the year, and you've done really well.
I achieved them.
You did.
I did achieve them. I'm still achieving them. Did you want to know what they are for the year?
I was going to say, that's what we need to know now, is what are they for this year?
Okay, so I'm really excited about this, and this is starting to happen. So my goals is to be able to provide a drumming at whatever level, because obviously I'm learning too, remember? So, you know, it's around growing with me, but growing with the community as well. I want to solo travel. I really want to solo travel.
Where do you want to go?
I don't care.
You just want to solo travel.
I don't care. And the reason I say that is because I've never traveled. I've been to 2 places in my life, which was Morocco and Lanzarote. But I would like to. I don't want to go to tourist attractions. It's not me. I don't want to do that. I want to get in with the locals. I want to be able to get up in the hills. I want to be able to do all that stuff. But to do that, the thought of going to an airport on my own is really scary. The thought of getting on a plane is really scary on my own. So I've already started putting actions in place. So the plan is to go to the cinema on my own. It's to go and have dinner on my own. Which, when I say that, I think, oh, you're really sad, but it's not as quite exciting.
Yeah.
I'm away on my own for a couple of days, and to be able to put all that, and hopefully by this time next year I would have solo travelled. That's one of them.
Amazing.
I would like to think by this time next year, and I'm going to say it live on air, that I can bring Reiki somewhere.
Okay, amazing.
I'd like to be able to do that. I'd like to think that I can do something in that. Yeah, I will continue with my education. But it's going to be, I feel that this year is going to be focused more on the well-being. I'm going to get out in the community more with the charity, see what people want out there, and I don't mean what we can offer, but also what they need as well. There's a lot of people struggling out there. There's a lot of people struggling that don't say that they're struggling and being able to do something there. So that's my plan. Solo traveling all the way, but of course, continuing to grow, continuing to educate. And most importantly, do you know what? I'm just going to be me for another year.
I think that sounds fantastic, to be honest. Yeah, really good.
That's it. So do I get the invite to come back next year?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Did you think, if you sat back and thought 10, 11 years ago that you'd be sat in the kitchen at our house, chatting on podcast, or, your career, the fact that you're a trustee of a charity that helps like over 150 people a week, and a vast amount of other people in the community. Did you honestly have that vision in your mind that you were going to achieve that?
I had a vision that I was staying in Somerset for a year. I was staying in Somerset for a year, and that was it. I was going to stay in Somerset for a year, and then I was going to go back to home and basically do most probably what I'd already done. And it's one of those where one of the beautiful gifts that I was given was you've got 24 hours in a day to make the difference in that day. And if people say to me, how have you done? I still don't know. I'll be honest. Yeah. I've been guided by the best teachers, and actually, I've been loved unconditionally. But how do I know where I got here? I don't. I just trusted. I had faith, and basically I'd done it 24 hours at a time. Don't get me wrong. Of course, I've had to plan for courses and all of that stuff. But I'm still very much 24 hours, and sometimes it's at my detriment as well. Like, I know that I've got a plan for things, but I quite like them being simple.
Yeah. So
did I think it? No. Did I? And if I'll be honest, and this isn't a doom and a gloom, did I even think that I would be here at 51? Not in a million years. Not in a million years. So I guess it's that. It's those little things. It's priceless, and most importantly, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And to be accepted and trusted as a trustee, as a colleague, as a family member, all of that stuff. Did I even think that was possible? Yes. People enjoy my company now. People, and there's all of that stuff that comes with it. So I guess, did I think I'd be sat in front of a podcast? Not in a million years. The anxiety, was it the same as a year ago? Yes, it was. And that's okay.
Are you glad you did it?
Yes. When I love spending time with you guys anyway. And actually, to be sat here feeling like a movie star has been quite a nice feeling, if I'll be honest.
Your confidence this time around is fantastic.
Thank you.
It has
really
been
good.
Really brilliant.
Thank
you very much for coming on.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Remember to listen, because these podcasts are amazing.
And we'll see you next year.
You will. Thank you.